Good evening, Facebook family and our YouTube family. Welcome to another session, a Sunday evening session of Brian and Janice, with Brian and Janice. We are very delighted to have you all with us today. And to top it off, I hope everybody has had a wonderful weekend. We've had beautiful weather today, and I hope you all have had a chance to enjoy some of that beautiful weather. You know, with the pandemic and everything that's going on with COVID, I know a lot of people are leery of getting out, but it doesn't hurt to get out in your own little bubble surroundings and get some of that good sunshine for vitamin D. We really need that to keep ourselves healthy. And also remember, you can still social distance with, being outside. So I want to encourage you to take advantage of these nice days that we have now. And just enjoy being around your inner circle, your close family and friends, those that you know that are really safe, and that you're in a safe environment. I want to tell you that we are so delighted to have you again today. And Brian will be illustrating to us and giving us more information on and breaking down the meaning of neoliberalism, liberalism, and neo-conservative. He will give us the differences between the two, and that is neoliberalism and neo-conservative. So without any further ado, I want you all to join in, relax, take notes if you need to, and just watch this show. I want to say hello to Shakira and her husband today for joining us. Thank you guys for coming on.
Guys.
We are so glad to have you all, and I want to encourage you to sit back, get relaxed, take a seat, and enjoy the ride.
Okay, so tonight, as Janice had said, first, good evening, Facebook, YouTube family. Thank you all for joining us again. Just to reiterate what Janice has already said, I want to, before we get into our discussion on neoliberalism and neoconservatism, I want to read to you Malcolm X's speech as it relates to the neoliberal ideology and how it affects black people. Okay, so if you would allow me to do that,
please, Brian.
Facebook audience, if you would just indulge me. This is Brother Malcolm, and I quote, he says, "The white liberal is the worst enemy to America and the worst enemy to the black man. Let me explain what I mean by the white liberal. In America, there is no such thing as Democrat or Republican anymore. In America, you have liberals and conservatives. The only people living in the past who think in terms of I am a Democrat or Republican is the American Negro. He is the one that runs around bragging about party affiliation. He's the one that sticks to the Democrat or sticks to the Republican. But white people are divided into two groups, liberals and conservative. The Democrats who are conservative vote with the Republicans who are conservative. The Democrats who are liberal vote with the Republicans that are liberal. The white liberal aren't white people who are for independence, who are moral and ethical in their thinking. They are just a faction of white people that are jockeying for power. The same as the white conservative is a faction of white people that are jockeying for power. They are fighting each other for power and prestige. And the one that is in the football game, in the game is the Negro. 20 million black people, a political football, a political pond, an economic football, and an economic pond, a social football, a social pond. The liberal elements of whites are those who have perfected the art of selling themselves to the Negro as a friend of the Negro, getting sympathy of the Negro, getting the allegiance of the Negro, and getting the mind of the Negro. Then the Negro sides with the white liberal. And the white liberal used the Negro against the white conservative. So that anything that the Negro does is never for his own good, never for his own advancement, never for his own progress. He's only a pawn in the hands of the white liberal. The worst enemy that the Negro have is the white man that runs around here drooling at the mouth, professing to love Negroes and calling himself a liberal. And it is following these white liberals that have perpetuated problems that the Negroes have. If the Negro wasn't taken, tricked, or deceived by the white liberal, then the Negroes would get together and solve our own problems. I only cite these things to show that in America, the history of the white liberal has been nothing but a series of trickery designed to make Negroes think that the white liberal was going to solve our problems. Our problems will never be solved by the white man. The only way that our problem will be solved is when the black man wakes up, clean himself up, stand up on his own feet, and stop begging the white man, and take immediate steps to do for ourselves the things that we have been waiting on the white man to do for us. Once we do for self, then we will be able to solve our own problems. The white conservatives aren't friends of the Negro either, but they at least don't try to hide it. Yes. They are like wolves. They show their teeth and a snarl that keeps the Negroes always aware of where he stands with them. But the white liberals are foxes who also show their teeth to the Negro, but pretend that they are smiling. The white liberals are more dangerous than the conservatives. They lure the Negro, and as the Negro runs from the growling wolf, he flees into the jaws of the smiling fox. One is the wolf, the other is the fox. No matter what, they'll both eat you. Brother Malcolm X. And I think that
Brian. Awesome.
says it all. That says it all. So as we enter into discussion about this, I think Malcolm's words are prophetic.
They are.
They are timeless, and they definitely speak to what we're dealing with today. Yes. As a general public overall. Yes. And especially as black people. So when we talk about neoliberalism, if I can just give you a quick and short definition, just a practical definition, is a policy or ideology where policymakers regulate the market, where they promote free trade and where they promote a capitalistic system over everything else. So what does that mean, Brian? That means that corporate America, corporations, that means that banks, and that means that Wall Street are the ones that will dictate where we go as a society. Excuse me. So that is what liberalism in a nutshell is. Okay? What is a neoconservative? A neoconservative is simply a neoliberal that got angry at some of his colleagues and decided to switch parties. Okay, so what does the neoconservative espouse? The neoconservative espouses a system or an ideology or a policy that enforces regulations, okay, whether it be on the state level or whether it be on the international level, normally by strength, which means that if they have to enact military policies to control wealth and to control nations, they do that in hopes of conserving what is the question that we have to ask. What are they conserving? They're conserving their ideology as it relates to wealth being predominantly controlled by one group. Okay? So, give you an example of a neoconservative ideology.
Okay.
One example is the Persian Gulf War. Okay? With George Bush. Okay? And I'm talking about the Persian Gulf. Not the second war that comes after that, not the cleanup process, but the Gulf War of 1991.
Okay.
Okay? And that was a blatant show of force. And Bush enacted military power, military strength to control the oil in Saudi Arabia as it relates to the interests of the American government in the Middle East. That is a neoconservative
act.
That's right, in ideology. Okay, so where he imposes that strength, okay, to maintain the wealth of America based on its interest in the Middle East. Okay, so as we go forward, that's just like I said, practical definitions for everybody to understand exactly what is a neoconservative, what is a neoliberal. Okay? So neoliberals are concerned more about free market trade. That always plays into the hands of the corporate America, of Wall Street, of the banks. That's why you see our former president, President Obama, prior to Donald Trump, that's why he bailed out the banks. Okay, so what you see with President Obama is pretty much it was a continuation of the Bush administration. Okay, so Bush also steps in and enacts policies that were more constructive as relates to helping Wall Street, but was not as aggressive as the Obama administration. So what you saw on one hand, we would call a neoliberal ideology with Obama. You would call President Bush a neoconservative, which is just a form of neoliberal that disagreed in some areas with his former colleagues that were still neoliberals. Okay, so, all right. So any other questions you want to, what you want to interject here? Okay, so how will this, I think what we have to discuss is, with the new administration, with the Biden administration, it is, of course, a neoliberal administration. What do I mean when I say neoliberal? What I want to do is take you back to understand part of the formation of the neoliberal concepts and ideology. So we have to go back to the Great Society of 1964 and 1965. Okay, up under Lyndon B. Johnson. Lyndon B. Johnson makes a speech at the University of Michigan, and he pretty much how the whole term Great Society came into play was based on his speech, where he talked about in his speech promoting an agenda for ending racial inequality and ending racial discrimination economically. Okay. So everything that he did as it relates to enacting policies existed around those two ideas of eliminating, like I said, racial inequality and eliminating racial discrimination economically. So what did that consist of? It consisted of boosting the welfare system, adding more monies to the welfare system. It also existed of creating an education platform whereby blacks could be educated without any type of discrimination being present. It also included the Medicaid and Medicare. It also included what we call the Old People's Act, which was securities that were set in place to promote the well-being of the elderly community by way of grants, by way of special programs. So there was funding set aside that went to states to do that. One example of that today is the Silver Slipper program.
Yes.
Okay, that a lot of our elders now take advantage of. So there were.
What about Meals on Wheels?
Meals on Wheels would be a good example of that as well.
Yes.
So what we have, and we have to understand that the Great Society was just an extension from the New Deal of Roosevelt. Okay? Mm-hmm. So that extension with what Lyndon Baines Johnson enacts in 64, 65 is a carryover to what formed as the neoliberal ideology. Okay, so that's why every time you see the Democratic platform, you're going to hear them talk about such things as income inequality. Okay, no discrimination when it comes to income. That's where the boosting of wages come in, and particularly the minimum wage. Okay? Even though it's not specific to Black Americans, it's still specific to the ideology in the agenda of lessening the wealth gap. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's why you'll always see on that platform the Green New Deal. You will see things like that. Yes. What does that say? You know, it's getting away from the invasion of our natural resources based on robbing, or so to speak, the earth of its natural resource, and using the resources of wind, energy, and water, which is plentiful. Whereas the digging for resources there is a limit. There's only so far you can dig, and there's only so much you're going to get out of those type of resources. Okay, so you're going to see them espouse environmental, and that's what that is, policies to try to protect and preserve the earth. So whenever we talk about neoliberalism, those are the things that you'll see. Okay, now what we have with the Biden administration is the extreme of that. Whenever you go to the extreme of that, it doesn't benefit Black people. Because what you are doing is you are minimizing the importance of the labor class. And you replace the labor, what happens is they begin to replace the labor class, okay? That labor class is replaced with immigrants that come in that is considered to be a skilled workforce. Yes. Over the labor workforce, who is majority and have consisted of Black African people since Reconstruction forward.
Brian, let me interject for a minute. Mm-hmm. How is it that the immigrants are considered a skilled workforce when they are coming from a country that they don't really have the educational components that we have here in America? And we as African Americans have been here for 400 years plus, and we a lot of us are educated. A lot of our children and grandchildren are getting a good education. So how can they come from a system with limited education into a system that we've already been in? We've gotten better education. Mm-hmm. So how are they considered skilled? So
that's a good question. So you have two classes of people, if I can designate it that way. You have the skilled labor class, which is the uneducated, okay? And then you have the skilled workforce, which is borderline the pseudo-slave, okay? That will work for lower wages as opposed to the skilled laborer who, like I said, designated majority, which is Black people, okay, that has a limited education, but through technical training, they learn job skills to actually fill certain positions.
Right.
One good example of that would be manufacturing.
Okay.
Okay. most of the line workers have to go through some form of training. They then move into the category of being a skilled labor force. Okay? So what is being brought in is the immigration workforce. Okay? Not that, so the skilled workforce is those that actually can be supervised and overseen by a educated skilled laborer, and that skilled workforce work for less wages than the skilled laborer. Okay. The skilled laborer is always going to demand more in wages because of their technical training. Now, the skilled workforce doesn't demand anything because it's overseen by someone of their same background, from maybe, ethnically from the same place, but have the education to supervise that new workforce. So what it does is it pushes the black workforce, the skilled laborer, out. Absolutely. And not only that, even the white workforce. So it is not discriminatory as it relates to racial lines, because you have also the white skilled labor force. Now, let me tell you this. Outside of that white labor force being paupers and criminals, descendants of criminals, okay, that started this country,
Right.
okay, that the founding fathers who were the elite that brought over their criminals, brought over their paupers, all paupers, brought over their people that needed to get away because they had no education. They did not fit into the society of the king and the queen. So those that came over, okay, is what you saw. They became also part of the skilled labor force, along with black people. Okay. So now you see a integrated workforce in the manufacturing companies. Ford, initially, when it first started off, you had an integrated skilled labor force, which originally consisted of poor whites and poor blacks being able to move into a middle class status, because of the wages, and not only that, having union support, to protect them as an employee.
Right.
Okay, as an employee. So that workforce, when you integrate the population with a large immigration population, that workforce is pushed out. And what you will now see as it relates to the skilled labor force that made up the blacks in masonry, construction, you'll see them being pushed out. Okay, you'll see a supervisor that brings in most of the people that look like him. Okay, and he can speak fluent English. Also, he speaks the language of now the workforce, the skilled workforce, not the skilled labor force. He speaks the language of the skilled workforce. And now they are the ones on the roofs. They are the ones that are doing the brick masonry. When you pass by new developments of neighborhoods, you see them putting the houses up. You see them. You see a foreman on site that looks like them, can speak their language, and you see no African Americans there. You see no whites. Okay, you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
That skilled labor force has been replaced.
Wow.
So what we have in the Biden administration, his first 6 hours in office, the neoliberal agenda began to take form. One way that it took form was by him signing, an immigration policy that not only reversed some of Trump's doings as it relates to the dreamers, which are the children of those immigrants that had come here. It also stopped the building of the border wall, and it is allowing for over 11 million new immigrants to obtain citizenship, which I don't have a problem with them becoming citizens, okay?
No.
But it also now opens up the border for millions of them coming. And that population not only replaces the skilled labor, that becomes your new voting population. Because now they're going to be handing out visas for citizenship, just like me and you drink water. Okay? just like we did at a catastrophe and the Red Cross show up and want to give everybody a bottle of water. Don't want to give them a check, want to give them a water. That's a neoliberal agenda. Give you some water, but we're going to keep the check, see? So all the donations that come in, we're going to keep those, and we'll use maybe 2 to 3% of that to get you some bottled water, get you some little cookies and crackers. Okay, so that, my brothers and sisters, is the best definition that I can give you and help you to understand the neoliberal ideology. Now, the neoconservative goes to the other extreme. Okay? It wants to conserve everything. Dr. Claude Anderson in his book, and I often reference him in his book, Powernomics, also in his book, The Black History Reader, he talks about black people don't have anything to conserve because 100% of the wealth was redistributed into the hands of the white slave master and the slave master's children. So you never had nothing to conserve. You didn't have a home to conserve. You didn't have land to conserve. You didn't have anything to conserve. You didn't have a culture to conserve because you were assimilated into their culture. So the neo-conservative agenda is the total opposite. Everything is done by way of strength. International affairs, being involved in those, we do it. We make sure our interest is represented. We make sure that we keep government minimized, that we keep the power in the hands of the states who can control their people, okay? We make sure that federal funding are going to those states that are abiding by our conservative policies, whether that is to slice the budget in half, whether that is to cut Social Security, whether that is to cut the defense budget, whatever we have to do, the education budget. What we want to conserve is power that we have as it relates to our interest in not only our United States, but worldwide. We do the same thing as it relates to our allies by putting certain trade stipulations in place, certain trade policies in place. If you don't like those policies, then we penalize you for that. We put sanctions, what we call sanctions, on you. So you have one extreme and you have the other extreme. And neither of those extremes, like Brother Malcolm said, work for black people. We are just caught in the middle of this game. And we become the pawn. Okay? And as unfortunate as it is. So there you have it when it comes to neoliberalism, neoconservatism, and I want to read a couple of things from our book we'll be showing and introducing tonight. But do you have any other the comments that you want to make? Just as it relates to everything we're seeing on the news and some of the things that we're...
You know, one question that I have, and I've had many people to ask, is what is going to happen with us, with African Americans? A lot of us are, pushing education, more degrees, get a higher degree, get more education, get more specialized training. Mm-hmm. Don't just stick in one rut, get in one job and feel like you're going to be on this job and you're secure for the next 20, 30 years. Right. And those of us that are near retirement, we should be pretty much okay. We should be ready to peel on off. Right. Right. So this is basically for our younger adults, our children, and our grandchildren. What can we do to ensure them having more security in this world? I know a lot of people are encouraging, learn to start a business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, get a business. I don't care how small it is. If you're doing it from your home, even if you're working a job,
Mm-hmm.
a corporate job, do something that you can start a business. And believe it or not, more of our young people are doing that than we realize.
Yes, absolutely.
They are doing things, and they are not afraid to do it.
Well, and you are exactly right, and I think you hit the nail on the head. One thing is that the internet creates a global market to actually be successful in whatever business you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you are, what I encourage our young people to do, and they got to do this, they got to get involved in the tech part. Okay. Of what's happening. So what do I mean when I say the tech part? Creating coding, understanding basic programming, understanding computer technology, how to disassemble, how to repair. They got to get involved in that part of the tech world, because believe it or not, Silicon Valley is not going anywhere. It's getting larger, and it is spreading to different states. Okay, every state will eventually have their own Silicon Valley. That's why they are pushing now STEM.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
They're pushing that. So and I also encourage our young people, jobs that are being vacated and that are being taken over by immigrants, construction, like we were saying, brick masonry, welding, auto mechanics.
Yes.
All of those jobs, for some reason, that are good paying jobs. Blacks, our children, are not being pushed toward that technical training.
Right,
so
Mark.
we need to get back to pushing them toward those skilled labor positions that we know there is going to be a need for no matter what.
No matter what.
Houses are always going to be built. HVAC, excellent.
Yes.
You're going to have heating and air. That's not going to change.
It's not going to change.
Cars are going to be here, whether they are 100% electric or whether they're still the old conventional combustible vehicles, which are gas engines.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So we are going to, those are skilled labor jobs.
Yes.
That there is going to be a need for. If you notice this, there are more immigrants now that are coming over here with those skill sets.
That they are.
Okay?
Definitely.
That's why I said the workforce, the labor workforce, is replacing our skilled laborers, which were at one time the poor blacks and poor whites that moved into a middle class status based on having that
type job.
Labor skill set.
Yes, definitely.
We had black men that were A1 mechanics at one time.
Had their own business.
Yeah,
their own
carpentry is another one. We had black men that were skilled in carpentry, electrical work. So those are the jobs.
Yes.
Okay, that the immigrants and that immigration workforce are taking over. Okay, and they are jobs that you can make good money, have a good retirement, put your kids through school. So we cannot abandon those jobs. Now, how do we get back to that place? One way we get back to that place is by being able, those of us that have black businesses, training our children. If you own a black business as a skilled laborer, hire black people and train our black children to be professionals, to be experts, to be good at what they do.
Yes.
Now, black folks have gotten a bad reputation.
Yes.
Those black business owners that have skilled labor businesses, carpentry and mechanic shop. Why? Because we don't take pride in our work. We skate over doing our best. So now you got black people who are deterred from going to black business, and rightfully so.
Right.
Okay? So we got to get back to the place to where our work is competitive with the immigrants that are coming over here.
Because they're coming.
They're here.
They already here.
They are here.
And
They're
more
not
are
coming.
coming.
Yes, more are coming. But they are here, and their workforce is here.
Yes.
Okay? And they take pride in their work. Okay? So we have to get back to some of those basics, code of ethics, what I call, in the black community as it relates to being the very best that we can be. And then when we get back to that place, you'll have black people that will call a black business owner first, as opposed to reaching out to a European business owner or reaching out to the Mexicans that he done got the number from his next door neighbor that did that. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Their work.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and it's a shame when black business owners will refer an immigrant over their own. And oftentimes they feel like we don't have anybody else to refer. I can't refer somebody else that, I know what type of work this person does because he's subcontracted out. I've subcontracted out work for them to do, and they did an excellent job. People didn't have any complaint. Right. So we got to get back to a code of ethics as it relates to black people.
Yes, yes.
If we're going to overcome this, and believe me, what this administration is focusing on as it relates to green jobs, it does nothing for the poor, working class black person. Okay? It does absolutely nothing. It does not set them on a trajectory to becoming economically liberated. It doesn't. What it actually does is further depresses them. Okay? So, the neoconservative agenda, not as aggressive, but really the same.
Yes.
It does not do anything for the black person. Now, with the neoconservative, because some of their ideology is borderline neo-Confederate. And what is a neo-Confederate? A neo-Confederate are policies that are enacted based on a way of life that was promoted in the South prior to the Civil War, being reestablished. And notice I said policies that are put in place that promotes a culture in the South that shaped their views, their way of living prior to the Civil War. That's where we get the white nationalist party. Okay?
Okay.
That's where we get certain fascist type groups, Nazi type skinhead groups.
Yes.
That will actually come out and say, no, we want to return to a certain culture.
Is that what we saw January 6th?
Partially.
Okay.
Yes. Well, partially what we saw, because there was a mixture of them.
Yes.
Okay.
Some of them were educated.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Some of them were neo-conservatives, and the other ones were neo-Confederates. We can't confuse the two. Okay? But when you have a neo-conservative and a neo-Confederate that have been pushed out of a job market, guess what? The two
come together
because they have the same interests.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? So now,
and they believe in that, and they're going to do whatever is necessary.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's where you see the neoliberal agenda says to that once skilled labor workforce, we don't have space and a place for you anymore. And guess what that causes? It causes rebellion. It causes an American people, okay, that have been used to making money to make sure that they can take care of their families.
And themselves.
And themselves, that's right.
Yes.
And to have what they call a piece of the American dream
Yes.
and the American pie. Okay.
Yes.
When they have been cut out of the dream, they're going to rise up. And that's what you saw January the 6th. You saw a mixture of that. And they lashed out against the neoliberals.
Yes.
The white elites. Okay? So that there again, and I said it last show.
You sure did.
You have the Hatfields and the McCoys fighting one another. Okay? And where were black people? You had a few blacks out there with their hat on because their pockets had been lined and they needed the photo op. You understand? Caught in the middle.
Caught in the middle, Brian.
Looking like a pond, like Brother Malcolm said. You understand?
Looking like a pond.
So we have to, we have to understand that. But that I think that's a good question. What do we do from here? Where do our children go from here?
Yes.
You know, education is good. Okay, I push for education. We need black professionals in the medical field.
Yes,
that
in the educational field.
In education, yes. But we need black professionals that have a black mind and not a black face.
Right.
Okay, with a white mind.
Wow. Oh,
so
wow.
We need black professionals that are concerned about their community and that are concerned about poor black people. Why? One thing you'll never really hear the neoliberal or the neoconservative focus on is the poor. They leave out that. Okay? They put a pseudo word there that is called poverty. Okay? So everybody that lives in poverty is not poor. You understand that?
Okay.
Because poor is below poverty. That is the invisible people that are in West Alabama, where we rode today, that nobody ever sees, whose houses are falling in, whose trailers have been destroyed by storms, where they get no help.
No help.
See, they are the invisible people.
Tarps on the houses.
That's right.
Still on
See,
the
you got poor
storm.
people in every city.
Every city.
That are invisible. Okay? They live below the poverty level.
Yes.
And nobody talks about them. You have the created governmental ghettos. Okay? That have become invisible. They are the invisible society. They are those people that they push out of the education system. They do not want them to be educated. They do not want them to be in this society. They want to eradicate them. So just like I was talking about last week, the confiscation camps that Lincoln put in place in reference to the Confiscation Act, the first act and the second act, these black people were packed in tents. Okay? They became part of, at that particular moment, the label on black people intensified. It grew. So when you look at blacks now that are poor, they are below the poverty line. If they got a welfare check coming in or any type of Social Security benefits coming in, it's not enough to even take care of the rent. If they pay the rent, they have nothing to feed themselves, nothing to keep lights on, nothing to keep running water on. Okay? And nobody sees them. They are invisible to society, and that is a governmental
setup.
Yes, it is. It is a design that's being well orchestrated, okay, to push those people into the super mega multi-million-dollar prisons, okay, that Alabama governor with her dumb self have signed on to. Okay, and forgive me, Facebook and YouTube, but what you see is a form of a large concentration camp.
That's it.
Okay, to deport our young men and women
Yes.
Okay? Push them. They are the invisible group. We don't want them here. And then you replace them with the immigration workforce, and you put overseers in place in their project areas that can interpret, that can enact codes of ethics that they follow, that put things in place as it relates to policies, that get involved in the political process, to get programs enacted. That's
to help them.
That's right. That's the whole system. That is how the system works. Okay, so that's how the neoliberal, the neoconservative agenda unfolds relating to black people.
So, Brian, I'm going to say this, and it may not be a popular thing to say, but I'm going to put this out there. We have forgotten. Our people. A lot of us have forgotten about those people. You know what I hear so often from people that I interact with or work with? They say, well, they can help themselves. They don't want to help themselves. I don't have any interest in helping anybody that doesn't want to help themselves. They can come up just like I came up. What do we say in that case?
We don't all have the same advantages.
We don't.
Okay, so that's when you have to correct the Negro that think they are part of this American society and they are still black. Okay, you have to help them to understand, look, brother, you still black. At the end of the day, sister, you still black. I don't care how educated you are. I don't care that you got a nice job and got a nice car. You are still black at the end of the day. Get stopped by police and you're going to see how black you are. Okay? We have to remind them that in the snap of a finger, that can all be taken away. So everything that you work for, if you got it by way of the system, which means that you were educated in a white system, you work on a white person's job.
What about people that went in the military?
The same thing.
And retired and came out.
The same thing. If you get a military check, that military check can be stopped at any moment. You understand what I'm saying? If we've actually had that to happen. When you have government shutdowns, even those people that are in the military are affected. You understand what I'm saying? So the veterans are affected. And me being a veteran myself. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So the government system can, just like it allowed you, and it is an allowance, okay? Why do I say that? Because those of us that have student loans, you have to pay it back. That is an allowance.
That's an allowance.
Okay? It is an allowance into their system. It is an allowance into their education. And just because you got ahead based on that doesn't mean that the allowance can't be stopped and that some of those royalties and some of what you think can't be pulled away. We have to be mindful of that. You understand what I'm saying? We really have to be mindful of that. So as black people, I would say, we have to support our own interests. There again. So now you have some of the rhetoric going around or being talked about as it relates to an independent party being formed by Trump supporters, some of his political supporters, okay, some of his political lobbyists, and the 74 million people that voted for him. Okay, so the Patriot Party could be a real possibility. But I'm not going to get into that this show. But I've been saying for many shows, if you go back and look, that black people need their own party. It's not a new idea. You understand what I'm saying? It's an idea that if we put it in place, it would work. Okay? So if Donald Trump has 74 million people to vote for him, there are 38 million black people in America right now. 38 million strong. With another party, we could have a voice at the table. See, all the Patriot Party does with 74 million is they demand. You see, like Frederick Douglass says, nothing happens without demand.
Yes.
There has to be a demand. So the Patriot Party, if it happens, they can demand a seat at the table. Okay? They can demand that their interests not only be heard, but something be done about it. The same with black folks. We got to get to a place to where we stop following black people that have gotten on this political train headed to nowhere as it relates to our interests that only benefit certain people that are part of the train. If you're not on board, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And there's very limited space on those political trains called Democrat and Republicans for black people. Okay? So, as a matter of fact, most of the seats are at the back for the blacks. That hasn't changed. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so when you're talking about Plessy versus Ferguson,
Mm-hmm.
that's what that whole argument was about in 1859, leading up to the Dred Scott case, the Dred Scott case leading up to the Plessy v. Ferguson. So when you have that, when you see that, what was the argument about? Is that Plessy v. Ferguson, who was high yellow, could have passed for a white man, okay? Mr. Plessy demanded that he be able to sit in the same section of the whites on the train. So all I'm saying is nothing has changed, okay? We're still in this struggle for liberation. We will have to understand that we are stronger together, okay? That's what Brother Malcolm was trying to get us to understand. See, Malcolm understood that the Democrats and the Republicans are the same. There's no difference. And I've said, you've heard me say that many times.
Same bird, two wings.
Same bird, yes, two wings. That's exactly right. A left and a right wing, and the same blood flows through both wings, right?
That's right.
So that's what you have with the Democrat, Republican, with the neoliberal, neoconservative. Now the neo-Confederate is saying, hold up, we got a voice too. We're going to put our own party in place called the Patriot Party. We want to be heard. We want to take our country back. All of these things, you understand?
Yes.
We want to return to some Southern culture where the black slave was happy being a slave. So they say.
So they say.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
But they still, and they're still, today they promote that agenda that our black Negroes down south, they happy with working with us, working how we want them to work. They don't want revolution. Okay? So we'll fight to keep our Negroes in their shacks and keep our Negroes docile, keep our Negroes, bowed down, keep their backs humped over. We have to understand it's an interest that they're fighting for. What is our interest? Black people have to be the same way. If we're going to stand up and fight, then we have to stand up and fight.
Yes.
We have to fight as a collective group. We cannot fight
Individually.
with black folks that are espousing a political ideology that does not work for everybody. We, and like I said, black people get so caught up into, we get into a romanticism with parties that have consistently left us out. After the vote, that's it. And the policies that they enact work more on behalf of those special interest groups that have a political agenda, that have brought their agenda to the table. And saying not only have they brought agenda to the table, but they brought money to the table. Okay? And said, we demand to be heard, we demand a seat at your table, and this is what we want you to do for our group. Okay? So that goes back to, going back to that great society, goes back to what was then formed as a multiracial society, okay, which spawned off into a multi-diverse society. That's where the quote-unquote Diversity Act comes in,
Yes.
that we deal with now, because what they're creating is a sex-less society, and a society that does not focus on gender establishment. All of those things now are being created based on an ideology. Okay? So black people that fall up under that ideology are against black people that are supportive of the neo-conservative group, which is funded by the Christian rights group and the evangelical movement that says, no, we don't want any of those groups taking advantage of our government. We deserve a right to be heard as well. We want gender to remain in place. We do not want the government getting involved in people's bedrooms. We think a man should be married to a woman and vice versa. So now what is that? That is the evangelical Christian right group now pushing for their power, and they are powerful, very powerful. The evangelical neoconservative group is very powerful. The Christian right, which is different from the evangelical, is still very powerful. They have a lot of political pull, because most of your Republicans today are either Christian right or evangelical. Yes. Okay, so there it is. And I mean, we can go so deep into that. It's inexhaustible.
Oh, wow.
Okay, when it comes to understanding the web of politics that have been weaved in this country to keep black people out. And that's what it is. See, we don't even fit into the Christian category. You understand? So there are issues there. You know, it's a problem when a white evangelical think Jesus was white when he was born in North Africa. It is a problem when a white evangelical thinks that Jesus, or want to make him equivalent to the Roman in the New Testament. It is a problem, but we don't see it. Why? Because it espouses a political agenda, because Jesus was a political figure. You understand? Okay? So their political revolutionary cannot be anyone that is opposite of them.
Yeah, right.
Okay? So all of this, and like I said, it's a deep web. It is not something that, you understand what I'm saying? And then black people still believe that the white savior is coming. That's what the white Democratic Party turns into a pseudo-Christ that now black people believe are going to save them. And so black people will fight for that pseudo-savior against other blacks. Understand what I'm saying? So it's not them fighting against other whites. You know, they're, oh, yes, oh, girl, oh, we, you know, when it comes to the white, if the white say something, we're going to buy that. But you let a black person come and rebuttal their Jesus. Now they ready to fight. Okay? That's what you have with some of these neoliberal news media and website. And then on the opposite side, with the Confederates and the conservatives, they're saying that our God demands us to burn crosses. Now here we go again. You understand what I'm saying? and so where's black people in all this? You know, you got two pseudo saviors that are disguising themselves as political party. So the war, you understand, is still what they call the holy war. Okay, is still going on. It never ended. And then if you threw the Muslim in the mix, now we got an enemy that we can unite around to discredit, to promote our interests and our agenda as it relates to maintaining a quote unquote war mode and being in a battle ready, you see what I'm saying, mindset that generates a certain amount of wealth coming into this country. So like I say, it's a deep web, family. You know, we can really unveil this thing, but we have to be conscious that this is a crucial time that black people need to unite around each other. Doesn't matter how much we have or how much we don't have. We've got to begin to understand politics. And that starts on the grassroots level. We cannot just go into the ghettos petitioning our brothers and sisters for a vote. We got to take them something more. That means we have to sit down with them and talk to them. Not only talk to them, but we have to get them involved as it relates to, listen, we got to be ready to fight for our interests. That means if we need to march to Washington and we need to get a little bit rowdy, you understand what I'm saying?
It'll never happen for us.
But we see, that's the mindset we have to dismiss, that it would never happen.
Wow.
The coup d'etat that the Patriots and Conservatives attempted on January the 6th to overthrow the government did not happen simply because it was not organized well enough. If they would have had some more political minds and had enough time to better plan, you would be looking at a totally different government right now, because the coup d'etat would have worked. Okay? So what is the coup d'etat? Coup d'etat is the overthrow of the government by military rule or by what we call citizen rule. Citizens getting angry enough. You understand what I'm saying? And you have people on the inside that are politicians, and you have people in the military that support the overthrow. Okay? So what am I saying? Black people have to become revolutionary. See, we just talk a good game, but in the end, what we want to do is twerk. You see what I'm saying? If somebody turn on the music at the Capitol and put, you know, we're going to put our guns down and start twerking.
Oh, gosh.
We're going to put our signs down and say, we ain't ready for no revolution. Or anybody come, you know, and sell us a bill of goods like Malcolm said, you know, and what they would say, throw us a little fried chicken and all. We want to, you know, we want the party. Where the party at? Okay, so maybe we have to have a party in the White House. We invite all the black people to come to the Washington party. And we're going to twerk. We're going to have the crown there. We're going to... Okay, for our dignified black folks, we're going to have, what is some of these, you know, I'm not a drinker, so you understand what I'm saying? But we're going to have everything laid out. The crab legs for our brothers and sisters and, you know, that love crab. We're going to have a party, and we're going to party until, we're going to shut the Senate down, we're going to shut the Congress down, we're going to party till something done. Whatever it takes is what I'm saying. We have to be have that type of mindset to engage in the struggle. You understand what I'm saying? And all my ghetto sisters, wear your long eyelashes, wear your hair below your butt, all my brothers that sagging, I want everybody to come. You understand what I'm saying? We all gonna join hands and we ain't gonna sing Kumbaya. We're going to put a little Wayne on, a little bit of Jay-Z on. we going to do, that's what type of mentality we have, because we all in this together. You understand what I'm saying? And by sisters and brothers that are dignified, you know, like the Don Lemons and the Joy, what on CNN, whatever her last name is, you know, and all of our sorors and all of my frat brothers and sisters. We all got to come together. See, that's what type of mindset it takes to change.
Yes.
The structure.
But I think with what happened January 6th, we saw them being, you know, going in like that because they had insight.
We have to devote a whole program to understanding of the way up. Yes.
Yes.
We will devote a whole program to understanding the way up.
Okay.
that has been weaved. I will do that.
I got you.
And I will talk about the political and the Christian movement that is intertwined. So I'll dedicate a whole program to that.
Wow. Okay, Brian.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So you're really making us think deep and awesome. Awesome, Siraj.
Yes, I love them. They are awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much, Siraj and Shakira. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Well, we've gone over our hour today. Brian has really gave us some great insight on neoliberalism and neoconservative. So with that being said, I always try to go back and do my own little research after he does his spiel, and I encourage you to do the same. It just kind of builds on what he has shed light on, and we can go a little deeper. It also helps us to get a better bird's eye view of what's really going on and not buy into all the hype that we're seeing. It was Chucks and Pearls for inauguration, Chucks and Pearls, which was great, I think, and I'm so happy for Kamala, and I respect that. But now it's time to put the boots to the ground. Be vigilant, be visual, listen, see, hear, whatever you can do to help make a difference in our communities, Black communities, poor communities, do that. Don't turn a deaf ear or eye away from our brothers and sisters, because as Brian said, we are one. We are one. And don't ever think that it couldn't be you.
Yeah. And I'm going to read this to you, and then we're going to say goodbye. Book tonight that I want everybody to get is Race Matters by Dr. Cornel West. And this is chapter 1, Nihilism in Black America. I'll just read a few lines of that. Recent discussions about the plight of African Americans, especially those at the bottom of the social ladder, tend to divide into two camps. On the one hand, there are those who highlight the structural constraints on the life chances of Black people. Their viewpoint involves a subtle historical and sociological analysis of slavery, Jim Crowism, job and residential discrimination, skewed unemployment rates, inadequate health care, and poor education. On the other hand, there are those who stress the behavioral impediments on Black upward mobility, the focus of the waning of the Protestant ethic, hard work, deferred gratification, fragility, and responsibility in much of Black Americans. Okay, so Brother Dr. West talks about those two structures and how we should function as it relates to that. And this is what he said. He says, unfortunately, these two camps have nearly suffocated the crucial debate that should be taking place about the prospects for Black America. This debate must go far beyond the liberal and conservative positions in three fundamental ways. Okay, and then I can talk about the three fundamental ways another time because we're pressed for time. But my brothers and sisters, get this book. It is awesome. Dr. Cornel West is awesome.
Race Matters.
Okay, Race Matters with Dr. Cornel West. And in chapter 1, the first thing he deals with is the neoliberal and neoconservative agenda and how it affects Black people. Okay, so highly recommend it.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. We are, about to download and put this on YouTube. Yep. And remember, we are on YouTube as well. And it is entitled Men and Women of Destiny. And today, we just encourage you to be mindful, be vigilant, and don't turn away from a brother or sister that's in need. Because in the end, we are one, and it could easily be you.
Absolutely.
Amen.
God bless.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Have a great night, everybody.